I unexpectedly ran into my estranged stepsister Angela and Lisa, who were there for their postgraduate exams. Angela's immediate suspicion and jealousy were palpable, while Lisa seemed genuinely surprised by my presence. Ignoring Angela's accusatory questions, I offered Lisa my support. Angela, fueled by her disbelief that I could be a contender for Director Shaw's mentorship, continued her taunts. Reaching my limit, I started my SUV and drove directly at Angela, stopping mere inches away, leaving her in shock and Lisa utterly stunned. What will Lisa's reaction be to my impulsive act? Will she finally recognize Angela's toxic behavior, or will she now see me as a dangerous person? Will this reckless moment jeopardize the carefully constructed life I've built as Dr. Athena? I slammed on the brakes, the car screeching to a halt barely an inch from her. Angela stood frozen, her face pale with terror. I rested my arm on the car window, leaned out, and delivered a cool, dismissive warning. "Get out of my way, Angela." She'd only taken a few steps when I started the car again and sped past her, leaving her choking in a cloud of dust. It wasn't until the car disappeared around the corner that Angela finally regained her composure. She sputtered, her voice filled with outrage. "She tried to run me over. What does she think she's doing? She's probably just jealous that I'm engaged to Anthony." After I left California, the Grays and the Smiths had maintained their connection. In the end, Anthony had become engaged to Angela. Lisa, clearly embarrassed by Angela's outburst, shook her head. "Nora probably doesn't even know you're engaged, Angela. None of us told her." "Shut up," Angela snapped, turning on Lisa with venom in her eyes. "All you care about is Nora, right? Why don't you go live with her instead of sticking to me then?" Lisa bit her lip. Her expression hurt. "In that case, give me back the money that Uncle Henry lent me." Their family had drained their savings caring for their mother's illness. Her mother had borrowed money from Angela's father, Henry, to cover Lisa's travel and accommodation expenses for the trip to New York. But Henry had transferred all the money to Angela, making Lisa completely dependent on her. Angela's lips tightened. "You're borrowing money from Dad, which means you're borrowing money from me. Since you owe me, try to be a little nicer." She frowned again, her thoughts returning to my car. Nora was driving a really expensive SUV, right? I didn't expect the Andersons to be so generous. Do you think they're helping her with her studies or something? A greedy light sparked in Angela's eyes. She pulled out her phone and dialed Henry's number in California. When he answered, she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "Dad, I think Nora has a way to get me in with Director Shaw. Could you ask her to help me?" Henry replied immediately, his voice eager. "Of course. Anything for you, Angela." I was nearing the Anderson mansion when my cell phone suddenly rang. The caller ID displayed an unknown number. I picked up the call. Henry's voice immediately assaulted my ears from the other end. "Nora, it's your father. I'm the one who raised you, and it's time you help me out now that I'm getting older. We'll forget about that business with your mother's company for now, but you need to get the Andersons to use their connections to help your sister get in with Director Shaw." I remained silent, a cold detachment settling over me. Who told him I have connections to Director Shaw? I was about to hang up when my stepmother's voice chimed in, equally demanding. Wendy pleaded, "Nora, I know you don't want to come back home because you're living in luxury with the Andersons, and you don't want to give us your mother's company, but we're still family, Nora. Blood is thicker than water, right? Angela is your sister. Help her out. If she becomes a good surgeon and makes money in the future, we won't have to bother you. Think about that." I couldn't help but smile, a bitter amusement twisting my lips. "Blood is thicker than water?" I repeated, my voice laced with irony. "Yes, that's right," Wendy confirmed, her tone insistent. "You and your younger sister have the same father, so you share the same blood. Don't forget where you came from." I raised an eyebrow, my voice deceptively calm. "I see. Huh? What do you mean by that?" "Nora, you..." Before Wendy could finish, I ended the call. I immediately dialed Lisa's number. "Where are you?" I asked, my voice tight with a sudden reckless determination. A surprise, Lisa replied, "I'm still at the school." "Okay, I'm coming back now." I spun the car around at the next intersection, the engine roaring with a newfound purpose, and sped back towards the school. 10 minutes later, the SUV screeched to a halt in front of the office building. I hopped out of the car with a fluid, almost predatory grace, and walked straight towards Angela and Lisa. Angela, still basking in her self-importance, greeted me with a smug smile. "Ha! Dad called you, right? Nora, I'll tell you this." But she never finished her sentence. Before she could utter another word, I grabbed a handful of her hair, my grip firm and merciless. I felt a slight resistance, a brief tug, and then I pulled. A small clump of golden strands came free in my hand. My voice was cool and indifferent, belying the fury simmering beneath the surface. "Let me borrow this for a sec." Angela's smug expression had dissolved into shock and a dawning fear as she clutched her scalp. Lisa watched, her earlier embarrassment replaced by a wide-eyed apprehension. Would this act of aggression finally sever the ties of their shared blood, or would it somehow bind them together in a new, more dangerous way? And what would be the fallout when Henry learned of this confrontation?